Making their way to this stage, I'm going to tell you a story. Okay? So, and it's actually what I'm going to consider to be the best segue ever. Okay? So, Amy, you're going to sit here, and we're going to go that way.
Yeah, Amy, Aaron, and Violet.
So, and I had to write this one down because it was actually this good. So last night we were sitting at dinner, and we were talking about cars with Ashley. Right? This whole last section we just talked about AutoNation. So we were talking about cars, and you know, Ashley's really into cars, and I really like cars, and we were talking about cars. We were having a lot of fun talking about cars. There's a couple other folks at the table. We were talking about these cars, and then somebody came over to say goodbye to Ashley, and Ashley says, you know, I'm going to be antiquing my way back home to Atlanta today, right? You're excited about that. And the woman who was talking to Ashley goes, you're going to be looking at switch plates. And she's like, yeah, I love these antique switch plates. It's going to be great. And me and the other two guys are sitting there going, okay. All right. And she's like, they're talking about it. And like, I'm the first person to break the awkward silence. Because I'm like, she loves cars. She's kind of a badass. You're going to go look for antique switchblades? Like knives? Because in my head, I had pictured that she has this room in her apartment which has just old knives, rusty knives and switchblades just like along the wall. I'm like, well, she's kind of a badass. So Ashley looks at me and like, really? Switchblades? And then the other two guys were like, that's what I thought she said too. So the segue is, and this is really where it works, is that if you know when you look at search and it says, I think you meant to search for this term, we could have used that in real life. That's where AI could have been very applicable to give a search on a consumer's terms, because as was pointed out by Ashley, she's like, I needed some other women at the end of this table because they would have heard antique switch plates. All the men heard antique switchblades. Common mistake, I'm sure, but a very, very good example of where AI is actually quite effective, right?
Yeah, audience.
Yes, exactly. So speaking of audience and search on consumers' terms, this is our last section of the day. So we're going to go right on down. So Amy, once again, you can say your quick hello,
Sure.
and then Aaron and Ryan.
Amy McClain-Ponder, Group Director of Paid Search and Performance Media at Beeby, Clark & Meyler.
Aaron Moskowitz, Golden Hippo. I run SEO, paid and organic for Gundry MD, Beverly Hills MD, Dr. Marty Pets, and a whole slew of brands.
And I'm Ryan Schuster, Associate Director of Paid Search at Exverus Media.
So thank you all for being here, and especially on the last day, the last session of the morning. So search on consumers' terms, we did have a conversation about this, but I want to start on that end and work our way down this way. Ryan, what does this mean? What does it mean to you as an agency?
Well, to me, I guess it really, search engines were originally built to answer people's questions. I mean, they were here for us originally, right? And that's what it was originally built for. It was built for the users. Then over time, it's kind of been more morphed for the advertisers. So for me, it's just about helping people. And with that, I think what's really important that I think we've really kind of lost sight of is the human touch of it all. We're all here quickly to grasp onto AI and kind of automation, everything like that to make our jobs easier. But I think we're kind of losing sight of the user. Thinking about what it's like when you call into a phone line and you get like one of those automated messages and we're just trying to press any number to talk to a human. I think we're starting to kind of lose sight of what that means for people when they're interacting with our ads or within search results, and they're just getting a whole slew of this automatically generated content. And I feel like they're just being left dissatisfied. So we're starting to see them move maybe away from search engines, social media, and other outlets to try and get better answers for these questions.
Okay. Aaron?
Well, in terms of branded terms, there really are not that many phrases or keywords that lead a consumer to an actual buying decision. So I'm guessing where it's heading, just from listening to Google people speak, is they want to automate a lot of the perspective around a buying decision. So automate ratings, create categories of ratings, show those at the top of a search and whatnot, and take away some of the human perspective, the individualistic perspectives, which is not a good thing.
Okay. Amy?
I mean, I think we've come a long way in, a little bit to Ryan's point about search has to be for the user. I think we've come a long way since then. I mean, this is why we have so many restrictions. This is why Google is forcing us to do things, because they are trying to keep people on Google and keep people on the search engine and choosing that search engine each time. This is why we had an introduction of quality score. I mean, I remember, I think I said this in my, my group yesterday, I remember in 2007 seeing the word pizza come up for, a Microsoft product search, right? And so we don't have that anymore. So we are kind of evolving to, and have evolved to, forcing ourselves to be exactly where what the consumer needs us to be. And whether that's on Google or whether that's somebody searching for something on TikTok or Instagram, the brands have to follow in that way.
There's two interesting threads that you're all kind of touching on. The first one is just, what is the intended UI? What is the intended interface for search? Do people really want to be navigating the web to go try and find information on themselves? Or is search intended to help you just have the answer to a question? Right? That seems to be the first thing that we're trying to figure out. Second is where? Right? You both, actually all three of you just pointed out Google, but then you mentioned as well, search is everywhere. It is on every device. You can use Siri, you can use Alexa to do searches. It's everywhere right now. So I guess the question that I would start with following up to those is, what's more important? Do you think it's more important to have a destination with an engine in it for people to be able to search and find the answers to what they're looking for? Or do you think that bringing search out of the computer and into the real world so people can interface with it everywhere is more important?
Starting with who?
Let's start with you, Aaron, because you answered.
Okay. Well, I do believe search eventually will be from our devices, from our experiences. I think it's too early to see that technology now. When we see headlines, TikTok or Snapchat, the next big search giant, I think that's just PR. That's for like a board or like their stock. And we've seen that so many times. You can go back into archived press releases from Facebook or any of the FANGs. They all want to go after Google search box. So that's nothing new. Now, when people start posting about video-based apps becoming the new search, I don't see myself watching a bunch of 15-minute videos to try to get the answer. Right. And AI of video content is not really close to there. So that's where I leave it.
I think that's fair.
I also think it depends on the query, right? Somebody mentioned yesterday, what is the age of Taylor Swift, right? I don't need a whole list of results. I don't need to go to pages to find that and investigate. I'm literally looking for one answer, and that's it.
But even to that point, is there ever a question where you're looking for multiple answers?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like thinking of a purchase journey. I mean, even let's just take a car, right? I'm sort of in the market for a car. Not really now. I'm longer than the $100-day purchase journey, but I'm looking around, right? I need a bigger car. All right, yes. AutoNation.
More leads being generated at MediaPost.
I'm in Orlando. I'm sure there's plenty. But I mean, that's a case, right? Where sure, maybe if I'm really looking for something very quickly, I need Scotch tape. Sure, I can find that on Target and order it right away. But a purchase journey for a car, I might have several searches, and I know I've done that.
That's a good point.
So third row SUVs, 2-row SUVs, all of that.
So you're saying we don't need 2 million results anymore?
You know what? I might have gotten to the end of the search results with this. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
Yeah, I think to Amy's point and going a little bit further, I mean, search doesn't necessarily have to just be asking a question and looking for an answer. I think someone mentioned earlier this week about how humans are just naturally curious. And we're all kind of searching for something all the time, right? Like we're all learning, we're all interested in something, and thinking about search more so not to just directly answer every question, but more of just when and where we're showing up as people are exploring around and providing them this whatever content that may be. Maybe it's a direct answer when they need that. Maybe they're searching in social and they're just trying to seek some inspiration. And I guess just trying to inspire those users to want to learn more and start asking more of those direct questions kind of further down that journey.
So is it fair to kind of look at search as that, if you go back to these sort of old school 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, et cetera, 1.0 of search is very one-dimensional, where you go to a page, you do a search, and you're trying to be directed to an answer to a response. right? And then you fast forward to where we are now, and it's very much situational context for search, because you might be looking just to go learn. You might be looking to get options on a purchase decision. You might be looking for the age of Taylor Swift. So you have to understand, is it a real pointed search that I'm looking for an answer to, or am I looking to be guided down a path, looking to be guided down a journey, or am I just looking to spend some time trying to figure out how do I curate some content that's targeted to me? Do we think that Google, do we think that Bing, do we think that those companies are the ones most well-positioned to provide that type of a search on consumers' terms? Or we do think there's going to be a secondary tier, like is it Apple, is it Amazon, is it those companies that are going to be able to provide that next layer of search on consumers' terms?
Sorry, yeah. Just a quick thought on that. I think what really resonated me the most this week was Elena's point about how Google's the largest focus group in the world. So I think Google's always been very well positioned to do that sort of thing, but as we're seeing, and especially I think exciting for us, like the paid keyword targeting opportunities that are opening up in social. Like we know TikTok has a beta coming for a search specific campaign. You can do it in Reddit now, Pinterest, etc. So they're collecting all this data, right, around these search terms and what's showing up when people are searching for these sort of things. I think what's so exciting for us as marketers is if and when search term reports become available through social as well, and we can start analyzing that. I mean, as search people in this room, we're all behavioral scientists, right? But that's really just been focused in Google right now, and usually those are very specific searches. So just imagining if that sort of data becomes available to marketers through these other channels and really understanding how people search differently in these different channels and trying to connect the dots and kind of planning in an integrated way across these different environments.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, you know, I don't think Google's going anywhere anytime soon, you know, but there are options. You know, we've heard from Brave this week, and Perplexity has come out, and they're going to have ads on the platform. So, and that is a very clean, essentially, answer engine. So I think there's really, a lot to look forward to, even just in the next couple of years.
I personally believe, one main thing, Google got in so early, and the amount of value that they give for non-commercial keywords, it kind of locks them into the future. The more that they give away free searches, the more they're keeping their competitors out of the game. And the long tail is so niche and so difficult to create like advertising categories around that Google's kind of stuck. And then on the other hand, we're kind of programmed into the system of Google. It's a very clean experience.
Sure. But it's interesting. I'll challenge that for a second.
Yeah.
Which is like the moderator privilege. You can do these things.
Go for it.
So prior to Google, we had the wonderful things like Alta Vista and Excite and InfoSeek and all these wonderful, Lycos that were there for years. They looked the exact same as Google back then. And then Google came along and they just perfected the delivery of the blue linked searches after that. And they also had this beautiful, just simple, elegant homepage. They're still tied to the desktop. They're still tied to a screen. And I would potentially argue that the concept of conversational search, being able to talk to your device and have a refined search experience, Google hasn't leaned in on that yet. No. So does that open up an opportunity?
Again, I think we got to get rid of page 2.
Yeah, well, that's
right?
where the dead bodies
Why do
go.
we need that for? That's where you bury dead people. But I think many antitrust cases later, we know that Google would not exist without Gmail, without Google Drive, without all these other.
Right.
So it's not just kind of cut and dry. Yep. So yeah, you got to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, and they are big.
And Google and Microsoft are really in an enterprise war now, right? Over AI as a tool for the enterprise. Yeah. And then Bing is giving it for free. So how do we know those are searches and not people just trying, like copywriters trying to build content or something?
We'll have to ask Sam Altman.
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned voice too. I mean, I feel like 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, we were saying it's the year of voice, right? Voice search. I mean, it didn't happen, right? People don't want to search that way. They do want to have, I think somebody said it yesterday, they do want to have options. I can use my Alexa to ask for embarrassing things like, the ratio of cups to quarts, right? When I'm baking. But I'm not going to ask it maybe about my car search, or something more complicated that I do actually want to have something in front of me that I'm reading. So I think there's a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah, there definitely is. But I would say, if you get a chance, and I mentioned this yesterday, I got turned on to Pi on Tuesday of this week. I'm now completely addicted to it. It's a conversational AI search platform where you sit and talk to your phone as if it's another person, and it will literally refine and answer the questions and help you drill down to figure out what car you're going to buy or whatever else. It's fascinating. To me, that's a really interesting thing, that when Google embraces that, that changes the way that we're going to be recommending it to the consumers that we talk to. Right, Ryan?
When Google purchases
When they
that.
purchase them, yes.
Yeah, I guess, as long as you can get ads in there.
Eventually, right? Okay, so given that all this change is happening and there's this potential for change, how do you recommend this into your brands? How do you recommend this to your clients? What are you changing in the way that you have search in the media mix now that starts to take advantage of where things are going to go and how we're going to look at search on consumers' terms?
I can start with that one. I don't think any of us here want to give up our Google budgets. Of course, we're going to toss a little to Brave after this. But
Wow, this is like the best event ever for Brave.
Where's JP?
Aside from that, what we've been really trying to figure out in very early stages, but trying to think of search in like 3 integrated pillars and planning accordingly. So like information seeking or search engines, exploratory, social, and purchase intent retail. And I think there was a question earlier this week around like, well, where does the responsibility lie? Like, who does this start with? And I think it does start with search, because we are the closest to the end user. We're getting their search data, right, and their search terms. So I think we don't want to shift budget away from Google. So I think it's really going to take some negotiation with our social team and some convincing of, hey, let's test out these new searchable campaigns. Here's how we can work together. We're always talking about how do we break down silos and work across teams, especially for agencies or brands that have a search and a social team, and getting them to talk together. And I think it's a really exciting opportunity. Like, it's kind of forcing us to do that, right? It's this new tactic that applies across different teams that we can like really force ourselves to collaborate together on. And it's not just as easy as, here's our paid keywords, go throw them in your Reddit campaign. We tried that and it didn't work very well. So you need more of like an adaptive approach based on each channel. But yeah, I think it really just starts with collaboration. You need someone spearheading it across all these teams to really kind of help drive that strategy down. And then just working across these teams, kind of adapting your keyword strategy across all of them, finding what works, finding good overlap. Yeah, I guess that's where it begins for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me in particular, I think it's looking at all of these channels we've talked about, right? TikTok, Instagram, so traditional Google search, and thinking about what stage the consumer is in when they're on that platform. So one of our clients sells nursing insurance malpractice policies, right? And there's a lot of nurses who don't even know that they need a malpractice policy, that might be something that they need. And so it's not just a Google search play. We can't just buy nurse insurance keywords. We have to be there for them on, maybe when they're searching for other just funny nursing content on TikTok because they're a nurse, and, just like you're looking up the jokes for digital marketing, they might be looking for that fun.
I write the jokes for digital marketing.
You write the jokes, never mind, sorry. On TikTok, so we'll use TikTok and we'll portion off a little bit of budget to at least inform somebody that malpractice insurance exists for a nurse. So I think just being there in the different stages of, a consumer's thought process when they're relaxing, after their shift on TikTok, or when they finally made the decision that they really do need this, we're there for them on Google search as well.
So it's not necessarily just about taking your keywords and trying to expand them to other places. You do have a much broader area now from which to inspire search, to drive people to go do search
Yes.
than you used to.
Yep, exactly.
Aaron?
So SGE is the new first place position. So we have to keep that in mind. I've had heavy demands from VP level to hire a lot of machine learning, AI, data science people. It changes the game completely. Typically in my department, we try to optimize all the listings on page 1 of Google to be positive. And we've gamified this over the years and made it a cross-department initiative. It was actually a company initiative based on a goal percentage positive listings. This changes the game completely because new first place, even above ads sometimes. Yeah, it's been a complete company-wide change. I've never been able to hire more SEO people, but at the beginning of the year, I was told to hire somebody where there's not even a name for this type of role. Like it's impossible to create like a job description or anything.
How do you do that? How do
You
you
get
get
very
gamified that?
creative. Just I say SEOs are very good at improvising.
Do you
Yeah.
put it into ChatGPT for
I did. That's where I
ideas?
started. Yeah. Actually, I built the scorecard on ChatGPT.
So you use the AI to teach you how to use the AI to
Yeah.
use the AI.
Yeah, I was searching everywhere.
All right,
for
the
any
inmates are running the
answers.
asylum.
Yeah.
So are we more at the stage of let's keep doing what we're doing, but write POVs for our clients, write POVs on how to drive more demand into search? Are we really still at that stage, or do you think we're at the point where you actually might dive into your budget, allocate some dollars to going and doing search on TikTok, going and doing search on Meta, going and doing search on some of these secondary platforms?
I think we're in the latter, for sure. I think that we need to keep that open to be able to allocate budget there and see where users are actually starting their journey, because I think it all does funnel down to, even if they start on TikTok, they go see an ad on Meta, and then see it on Google. We all know that path happens, so we have to start there.
So I think a lot of the companies have a social media department. So
Sure.
those people have ambition. So they're constantly testing and trying to prove that search meets social. But it's also really cool, or these other platforms, newer platforms, really cool places to just get new eyeballs around like really funny concepts and whatnot, really interesting concepts outside of the typical buyer decision journey. So we just keep that going, and all other initiatives are kind of changing a little bit.
I would agree with Amy for sure in that, honestly, I don't think there's a better time to get into the social search side of things. People are so frustrated with Google right now. And, the way that you attract more users to your platform is you make it user-centric, right? It needs to be helpful for the users. And social kind of has a thing to prove right now. They need to make their search results so helpful so that people want to search there more. And what better of a time for advertisers to get into it than right now when they are trying to make these results as helpful as possible. Aligning your brand or your advertisements with like really helpful, really relevant results. Like this is the time before it gets super saturated with advertisers. So yeah, it's time to start testing.
Cool. Any questions from the audience that you really just dying to know about? Come on. It's your last chance because this is the last session.
Actually, finally got it on. I actually do have a question because I've been just even preparing for this, and just social commerce is coming up and it's building more, and that's a game changer, I would think. Because when you're on social, I know for myself, I'll watch these, the little Insta ads and then they're like showing you outfits, and I'm like, ooh, I want that, and I'm like, okay, how do I get there? But as it improves, I would actually probably be purchasing that, even though then later maybe I regret it. So I feel like because it's social is getting you in a different mode where you don't feel like you're being sold to, you feel like you're being advised. So I'm just curious how you think that's going to change as social commerce improves even more so. Any one of you.
I'll answer that. So first of all, the noise with TikTok Shop. Understand that TikTok is simply trying to create that noise. They're subsidizing the commissions and the fee structure. They're creating essentially an affiliate network, which even affiliate networks, it's hard for them, right, to do all the payouts, the 1099s, et cetera. So I don't see a long-term plan there on TikTok. Instagram has been, they've been aggressively trying to implement this model for so many years. I want to say at least 7 years. I've read article after article and case study. They could not figure it out. So I don't really know if social meets the bottom funnel requirement, but always on the paid side, like cold traffic, the ad networks tied to those platforms will always do well. That's all I got to say.
What other questions you have?
Anyone else?
All right. Well, I'm going to do. Oh, we got a question. Ashley? With the there's 5 people at home that want to hear the question.
I said 100 already, okay? So.
I hope you're enjoying your jammies and your couch. All right, so this is real quick, just a bit of a conspiracy theory, but only because Aaron brought it up a couple days ago. How much of what we're experiencing with Google is just the fact that they've over-engineered and they over-tweaked and they over-complicated their own stuff? And now they kind of have to right the ship because you're seeing like performance go down, interaction go down. They, the money that they make on the brands, and they can't keep you guys happy to keep us happy. So how much of what's going on right now are they just like kind of resetting the like releasing the ballast to get rid of just bad products, bad stuff, de-indexing a ton of content in organic? I mean, it might be a good thing. I don't know, man. I don't want to put too much in the Google camp because we're breaking up, but maybe it's not all bad. I mean, he's got nice hair, he's tall.
Anyone want to take that loaded question?
Ooh.
I'd love to hear the full theory.
I love conspiracy theories. So we all know that SGE is a result of Bing kind of starting the fight. So that's obvious. Another obvious thing that we've seen since Google started implementing featured snippets, and I came from ranker.com, what I noticed when I was there is Google is literally stealing our content and putting it at the top of page 1. So when I think of publishers and a lot of these independent review sites pretty much falling out of search right now, I think in the back end, when I think about like corporate strategy, Google has this long-term strategy to become a publisher. And there have been many lawsuits. We know about the Getty Images lawsuit. And I think them and OpenAI are stealing content and selling. There's going to be a lot of lawsuits down the line. But what's also interesting is this Reddit partnership, because an account on Reddit could summarize a New York Times article, and then it could be learned and shown in SGE. So I keep thinking that Google is validating all these costs of SGE, Gemini, Bard, and everything with the potential of owning content. And I think they already own the news, and we saw the antitrust case in
And
Europe.
all of that to feed SGE to make the results more rich and better
And
for the
gray
user.
as to who owns it.
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
It ties together. There's another theory that's tied to this. You heard about Taylor Swift being the CAI operative, right?
I believe it.
She's also the CEO of Google. She also owns Google, and she's trying to just use Google to sell her records.
Yeah.
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 We're in
she's
Nashville,
great
so
at
we're gonna get
SEO.
it.
Yeah, she's cleared a lot of PR crises with SEO. I've seen that.
Can we not go anywhere without talking about Taylor Swift?
Absolutely not.
We're trying to wake everybody up.
I think she's come up every single day now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're in her town, so. Any other questions?
Anyone else? Okay, guys, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron,
Thank you.
Amy, Ryan, and Cory, of course.